So if your mental health deteriorated to the point that you cannot work, the focus immediately is on getting better. That has to be the focus because your mental health is too important to ignore. If you don't have your mental health, your quality of life can actually be really poor. And we need to make sure individuals are focusing on that sort of stabilization and recovery first. But if that situation isn't going to resolve easily or quickly, and there is a realization that actually I cannot go back to work, then something needs to happen. And there are various options available to an individual. Somebody who has been off for a period of time, the obvious thing might be to raise a grievance. If that person can't go back to work, there might be barriers there which are preventing that return. And a grievance is a great way of identifying those and allowing the employer to understand what it needs to do in order to facilitate a safe return to work. It might be that the relationship has broken down to the extent that that person can't go back no matter what adjustments are made. And most people have the ability to resign. Nobody has to work in a job in which they fundamentally don't want to work in, unless they're contracted to. But most people have the ability to resign. But that isn't always the best option from a legal point of view. Some clients come to me saying, I'm going to resign and claim constructive unfair dismissal. And in some cases, that might be the right course of action. But for others, that would be a poor reaction and a knee-jerk reaction to a scenario which could be better managed either slightly more informally or through a different legal mechanism. It might be at this stage that we are now thinking about litigation. I would expect somebody who has been signed off sick for a substantial period of time to start to think about, or actually perhaps I should speak to a lawyer and get legal advice. And rather than try and speculate on all the sorts of things which I would advise upon, because it would depend on the personal situation, at that stage it's to receive bespoke advice. So it might be that a claim doesn't necessarily, it's not actually pursued, but certainly something significant has happened to warrant those sorts of early conversations, because a lawyer might actually steer a potential client in a different direction depending on what they want to achieve. So one common example would be a settlement agreement to effectively terminate the employment, which would include some compensation in exchange for waiving away all sorts of claims which they might want to bring. And that might be a better route than simply resigning, because if you resign, you're in a much weaker negotiating position to secure that sort of agreement. So the advice would be tailored onto the individual depending on their circumstances and their preferred objectives.